Would you like to increase your credit score by a few points? Do you have to increase your credit score by a lot of points? Well, either way, you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to show you how this really works. When you're done, you're going to have actionable items that you can take and put into place today and get your credit score climbing up, up, and up. But before we start, let me tell you who I am. My name is Linda Shinpaul. I'm a licensed loan originator powered by Edge Home Finance Corporation, and we are the #1 national mortgage broker in the US. All right, let's establish a baseline. What is your current credit score? If you don't know it, there's some ways you can find it. A lot of credit card companies have credit score monitoring as just a free service. You can start there if you don't know your score. But if you have a score between 300 and 579, that is considered bad credit. Okay. You really are going to need to pay attention to what we talk about here because we want to get your score up. If you're between a 580 and a 669, it's fair. We can probably get you a loan, but it may not be the very best interest rate in terms because you are going to have to pay a little bit more for being riskier and in that credit score range. And then from a 670 to 799, that's good credit. You probably won't have any issues getting a loan. And anything over 800, lenders line up. They want to work with you. Okay. So that's kind of the hierarchy here. So we have a baseline. Your credit score tells third parties how likely you are to repay your debts. Okay. This is based on decades of monitoring credit reports and people's habits as far as paying and not paying. But for our purposes today, and the reason why I really want to help you is because your mortgage rate is impacted by your credit score. Period. So the higher your credit score, typically the better your rate's going to be. Okay. So we don't want you to camp out in that bad credit area, and you shouldn't have to. I think when we get done, you're going to see that you can simply and easily do a few of the things we're going to talk about and get that score up. Okay. 5 factors are affecting your credit score. All right. We're going to talk about them. First one is your payment history, and it makes up about 35% of your credit score. Then we have the amount of debt that you're using. That's 30% of your credit score. The length of your credit history is about 15% of your credit score. Your credit mix is 10%, and new credit that you open is 10%. We're going to primarily focus on the top 2 sections, your payment history and the amount of debt or debt utilization is how you may hear that reference sometimes, because those 2 things you have way more control over than length of credit history, credit mix, and new credit. Those are kind of byproducts of what you need. All right, so let's dig in. Payment history. This is the big one. 35% of your credit score is based on you making your payments on time or not. So here's the things that can really affect you negatively. You can have late payments, and those late payments will show up on your credit report for 7 years. They don't necessarily pull your score down that whole time, but they will be on there, and creditors can see that there was a time where you had a situation where you were late. Collections, again, will hang out on your credit report for 7 years, whether they're paid, once they're paid. So if they're open, collections are going to hang out forever, but once they're paid, then they will hang out for 7 years. So creditors can see that you had something going on before. And then bankruptcy. Once your bankruptcy is filed and discharged, it does go on your credit report and it will stay there for 10 years. And a lot of loan applications will ask if you have been in default or filed bankruptcy or any of these things in the last 7 to 10 years. If you have had any of these situations, if you have gone through a time where you had a late payment or a series of late payments, if you had some collections, and even if you filed bankruptcy, I want you to know that you're going to be fine. You're going to be totally fine. I have experienced some of these things myself in life, right? Things come at you that you don't expect, but I'm going to show you how you can turn it around, how you let some time pass, and then we can rip the Band-Aid off and you will have a beautiful new credit score. All right, let's talk about late payments in a little more detail. If you are late on a payment, you need to call your creditor ASAP once you realize, okay? Sometimes they will just forgive you, right? Like if you missed making your car payment and the next month comes and you get a bill and it's $800 instead of $400, and you're like, what happened? Oh my gosh, something happened. Maybe your credit card expired, technology doesn't always work for us. And so whatever happened, you're late. Okay. System error. You just didn't have the money. You forgot. I don't know. Right. All these things. Just call them. If you will call them and deal with them directly and quickly, a lot of times they will undo the late payment for you. And that is beautiful. Anytime we can make something completely go away, that is better than just getting current and letting time heal your credit score. Okay. So what you would do is, let's go back to this example. You are late on your car payment. You just completely spaced it. You didn't have the money or you had a technology glitch. Doesn't matter the reason. Hey, Mr. Car Loan Company, this is Linda Shinpaw. I realized that my payment last month did not go through. I would like to get caught up immediately with you and ask that you would remove any late payments from my credit report. Most of the time, guys, they will. Most of the time, they're not looking to sock it to you. They just want their money. They just want their money, right? That's what they're in the business of, is giving loans and collecting money. So if you call and if you make a payment right on the spot, get caught up and make the next payment even, a lot of times they will take that away. And if the person on the phone won't help you, ask to speak to a manager. All right, don't give up. Okay, so that's how you can handle some late payments. Now, what if there's just a mistake? Okay, this is the easiest, right? It's a pain because you have to, you have to go and spend the time and make the call, or maybe you have to go down to the office or whatever. But if you notice that there's a mistake on your credit report or with something, a bill that you get from somebody, maybe a doctor's office or something like that, just call them. Say, hey, I think there's been a mistake. Could you help me with this? Blah, 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 blah. If there is, then they have to undo it. By law, they have to undo it. So you can call the creditor directly, or you can do this through the credit agencies. If you go to freecreditreport.com and pull credit report and look at everything that's going on, if there are things that you think are incorrect, there's a way that you can go through Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax's website and petition all of those. So however you choose to handle it, by law, those creditors have to pay attention. They have to do the research. And if they cannot prove that it is a true charge, it comes off and you're good. All right. Collections. Sometimes you don't even know you have a collection. I have clients that move across country and then I'm pre-approving them for their new home loan. And I'm like, hey, you have a $323 collection with AT&T or the local utility company or something like that. A lot of times it's some sort of utility. And what happens is you think you've paid the final bill before making your move and you haven't. And they'll paper mail you something that you never get. So this stuff happens. It's common. Don't freak out. But maybe you also have a legitimate collection. Maybe you have some medical bills that you just couldn't pay on time and they're just collecting as collections, right? Regardless, here's how you handle these. You pick up the phone. I'm telling you guys, you got to pick up the phone. It is so much more effective than an email or a text or a chat bot. Okay. Pick up the phone, call them. Hey, Mr. Medical Company, I would like to settle with you on this collection that I have. Here's the number. Here's the amount. Yeah, I know it's $650. Well, I have $400 and I would be willing to give that to you today and settle this account with you. Or you can ask them, is there an amount that we can settle at, and let them tell you the number. But either way, a lot of times on collections, you can settle for a lesser amount than what you owe. But here's the catch. Make sure you ask them, will you report it as paid in full? Because if you owed them $650, but you give them $400, you don't want them to report that you still have a $250 deficit with them. You want them to settle for a lesser amount, but consider it paid in full. Now this is the best insider tip right here. You don't have to stop there. You can ask them to then remove the collection completely from your credit report. A lot of times they will. Because again, what did I say just a few minutes ago? What do these companies want? They want money. They want to be paid, right? A lot of them aren't legalistic about the fact that this is a collection on your credit report. So again, you got to pick up that phone. You got to ask, settle for a lesser amount, consider it paid in full, and then would you please remove it from my credit report? And you'll have luck a lot of times with this. Now, also get it in writing. Have them email you or paper mail you, however they do it with their system, that this has been taken care of. Because sometimes it can take 30 to 60 days for that to show up on your credit report. Every lender, every creditor out there reports to the credit bureau on a day of their choosing, monthly. So if they had reported to the credit bureau on the 2nd of the month and now it's the 3rd, it's going to be like almost 30 days until that gets reported on your behalf. So anyhow, you just want to make sure that you get it in writing so we have that to look at. Okay, you already have so much information, and I hope that you can see that with some very simple steps and just a little bit of your time, you are going to get a much better credit score. All right, this is the second section, the amount of debt or debt utilization. So let's say that you have 2 credit cards, you have a car payment, and you have some student loans. How much of the available credit are you using? Well, on the car payment and the student loans, you don't really get to pick that number, because if you take out a car loan for $50,000 and you're in the first couple months of making payments, you're almost at 100% loan to value, right? You're using almost 50,000 of the 50,000. It takes some time to pay that off. Student loans too. The closer you are to getting out of college and having those student loans, the higher amount of the loan balance you're using. So you can't do a lot about those fixed loans, but what you can do is you can manipulate these credit cards a little bit so that way you're not using as much of the available line of credit, which will then give you a better credit score. Okay, so what do I mean? You want to pick up the phone. Now, this you could probably do through your credit card app or email or what have you, but you want to ask your credit card companies, can I get an increase in my credit line? That's it. So let's say you spend about $1,500 a month on your credit cards. And let's say you have about a $1,500 or $2,000 limit on that credit card. Guess what? You're maxing out your credit card every month. And that is going to hold your credit score down. But you're not doing it on purpose. That's just your flow, right? That's just what it takes every month. So here's what we do. We ask the credit card company to increase your credit line. So maybe now instead of $2,000, they give you $5,000 or $10,000, but you just need $15,000 a month. So automatically, just by a simple math calculation, you are using a lesser percentage of the credit that's available to you. Now, don't use the increase. Okay, don't go out there and do that. All right, this is to help your credit score. This isn't so you can go buy more things, right? So, but this is a really beautiful thing that you can do and a simple thing that you can do, and it will manipulate the system, the calculation, and you will see some improvement in your credit score. All right, let's touch on the last couple things. Like I said, they're not super impactful and you don't have a lot of control over them, but length of credit. So if you're constantly opening new credit cards to get 10% off here or 6 months same as cash, and then you close them and then you open another one, like that length of credit is so short because you're not keeping any of them for a long period of time, that is going to hold your credit score down. So I would suggest just getting 1 or 2 really great credit cards. I have some that have 2 and 3% cash back. I love that. Some people like to do the travel points. I've always wanted to be one of those people, but it just takes so much time. So I just stick with the cash back. But regardless, just get 1 or 2 credit cards and use them forever. I probably shouldn't even tell you this, but I mean, I literally have credit cards that I've had over 20 years. And I've never been late, and I have a high credit limit on them, and I use a very small portion of it every month. Those things make my credit score sing. And that's what I want for you too. Credit mix. This is like how many open revolving versus long-term debt versus short-term debt. So credit card, car payments, mortgage loans, right? Those are 3 different types of debt. The credit bureaus do like you to have a little bit of variety there, but just don't worry about that. This is so minute, and you just need what you need and let this part take care of itself. And then the last thing is new inquiries. I touched on it. I stepped into this topic when I was giving the example about opening credit cards for 10% down or 6 months, same as cash, and then closing them because that's length of time. But if you are constantly opening new credit, that is going to hurt your score. All right. If you need to get some new credit. See if that creditor can do a soft inquiry. And this is so they can see your credit profile and tell you whether you would be approvable or not, but it's not a hard pull on your credit. So when you have a hard inquiry, that is when you're actually opening an account. When you open a new credit card, when you get a car loan, when we do a home loan together, right? Those are going to be hard inquiries. And that tells all the creditors and anybody looking at your credit report that there was some new credit about to happen when those pulls happened. And if that isn't on your credit report, they're going to ask you for proof of why it is or isn't on the credit report. So anyhow, it is a big deal. You don't want to have a bunch of credit pulls on your credit report for no reason. So just be mindful of that. Okay, so here's some mortgage advice as we're wrapping up. Every payment on your credit report is counted as debt when applying for a mortgage. So even if it's, I have 6 months until, 6 months same as cash, or 18 months before I have to make a payment on these credit cards, there are monthly minimum payments that do get reported. And all of those monthly minimum payments get added up together and counted against you when you're buying a home loan. So just know that there's no free lunch, right? Everything does have a price and will be attached to you. And I started by saying this, and I want to say it again now. Your credit score affects your mortgage interest rate. And so it is so important that you pay some attention to this and just do a couple of these things. If you've got a little boo-boo on your credit report, it's okay, but go fix it. All right, if you need some more information on this topic or any other loan topic, I have a couple resources for you. First of all, I have a free Smart Home Buyers Guide, and you can go in the description of this video or my channel and request that. I'm going to send it to you, and then I'm also going to stay in touch with you on a weekly basis. I send out emails every week. Sometimes it's a video, sometimes it's just a typed email. It takes just a couple minutes, but I give tips and tricks on mortgages. And then if something crazy happens in our industry, I'll explain that simply and easily too. You can also book a planning call with me. I know you're busy. I have 15-minute spots for that reason. Just grab a quick spot on my calendar. Tell me what's going on. And let's figure out if I can point you in a direction right away, or if we need to set aside a bigger chunk of time and really dive into what's going on. All right. But I'd love to help you any way I can. Thank you for watching. Put in the comments below any other topics you would like to hear about. And I hope you have an awesome day.